Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Stephen and Oliver Show. And we've got a really interesting one. It actually follows on from a very cool episode we did about Rory McIlroy's recent Masters win. And we're then thinking about, obviously, all the time and work that he's put in there. And we're thinking about that as an investment in himself. So this episode is called Invest in You. Now, I've got a few ideas where that's going to take me, but I'll let you start, Steve, and you've obviously thought about this quite a bit off camera. When I say invest in you, we're obviously talking about coaching. So where does that take your mind?
It's one of those ones, isn't it? And I always start with this, that we sometimes forget what investing in yourself is all about, and we take it for granted because there's other things that we just do because it's the norm. Whether that's a gym membership, a food membership, dance membership. There's lots of things that we do to invest in ourselves, but because it's the norm, we don't really think about it in that way. And I think one of the issues when you think about any form of training or mentoring and coaching, you think about the expense a lot and you don't think about it as an investment. Mm-hmm. What I want to try and talk about today is actually invest. If I said to you, by having a coach, a mentor in your life, if that meant that you developed so that you had more opportunities because you developed more, would you say yes? And I can't remember what the stats were, but when you talk to people about having a mentor and a coach, 90% of the people think it's a great idea, but only 17% of the people take it up, which says to me that there's a really big opportunity here for people to really invest in themselves and invest in their own self-development. So why? Well, if you invest in yourself, it builds confidence. We now know that, if you build your confidence, more opportunities will come your way. If you invest in yourself, it means that you come across differently. We know that two people that have gone through a similar educational process and both have come to the same place at the same times in terms of their intellect, we know that the one that gets chosen is the one that has the right vibe, the one that has the right persona, the one that someone feels more comfortable with. These attributes and traits are sometimes taken for granted, but actually we know that's how we decide whether we feel comfortable or not with that person. And a lot of that's about their development. A lot of that's about their confidence. I use another example. I've been working with many companies where they've been looking at bringing in graduates. 9 times out of 10, the graduate that has taken the time out and invested in themselves and gone traveling and done some different things and seen a bit more of the world, ideally come across a lot more confident, a lot more worldly wise, a lot more common sense. Yeah. And that's what I mean. So when I hear the word invest in you, that's what resonates with me. It's about what can I do to help myself self-develop. And it's so easy, isn't it, to say, oh yeah, that's someone else's opportunity, that's someone else's job. But no, actually, we should be taking accountability and responsibility for ourselves and say about how can we invest in ourselves to actually develop ourselves more, to give ourselves more opportunities, and also, let's be honest, make ourselves more happy. Because, investing in yourself also brings you happiness.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is the thing that just before we were talking about this episode and with the prep that we were doing, we were thinking about different scenarios and examples of investments. And if you think the most obvious one is financial investments. So a lot of people are in a position where they're lucky enough to put some money away with a financial advisor. And whilst you might not enjoy them, you kind of pay no real thought to the fact that there's some fees attached to that. There's probably some setup fees. There's probably some ongoing fees. But you know that you're putting your money in the hands of someone who should know what they're doing. And therefore, that is going to grow your wealth, your potential for financial freedom, your potential for a better retirement. So with confidence, you invest that money, right? And you're happy to pay those fees or whatever it is. And I struggle sometimes to understand. I know it's our job to explain to people what we do and help them make that decision. But I wonder why in this country in particular, because it's not quite the same across in the US and other places, but I wonder why people are so slow and resistant to invest in themselves through things like coaching or other training programs or other forms of education themselves, when, from financial investments, maybe investment in their property to increase the value of it, to sell it for more, to maintain a vehicle or something along those lines. It's almost like natural to do, but it seems almost counterintuitive to most people to invest in themselves in what seems like a cost. And this is the thing that I really drum home to people. Working with a coach, a mentor, or somebody along those lines, it's not a cost. It's an investment in yourself. Because the only time it becomes costly is if you make a poor hire and get maybe someone who's not up to scratch, but more likely, because that's rarely the case, that someone's totally useless coach, and they may not be the best, but they'll have some good tricks, if nothing else. You're not doing what you need to do. So that's when it becomes costly. Again, how many times have we probably look at things and we're spending money on, I don't know, penny people are guilty of spending direct debits on things they don't use. Well, that's what you would be doing if you spent money on coaching but didn't do the actions or didn't take on board the stuff that you're learning. So going into it with an open mind, going into it with a deliberate intent, it's not a cost. It's an investment, because you will grow, you will transform, you will change in a positive way. So really, as we close towards the end of this series, this first series of the Stephen and Oliver Show, I think what we really want to implore people to do, so ideally, yes, buy our services. Of course, we're very biased. We think we're rather good. However, if we're not your cup of tea, don't let that put you off. It's the investment in yourself. I mean, the fact that you're listening to this podcast makes me hopeful that you've listened to most, if not all, of the season. That's a start. That shows that you're interested in this. So that's really good, and a big thumbs up to you. But ask yourself, what more could you do? And if your resistance comes down to one of cost, I understand that. But also, I would ask you to reflect on your budget. Now, some people listening to this will be absolutely immaculate. They'll know every penny they spend, and fair enough, you're probably not the person I'm speaking to, because you're aware of it and you would probably justify why you are or are not spending stuff. But I bet most of you don't. And I bet most of you, if you looked at your monthly outgoings, yearly outgoings, and so forth, you would be able to scrape together a lot more than you realise to make changes. And exactly back to Stephen's point, if you could sit there and know that in, say, 6 months' time, you will have moved from position A to position B, and that will mean you are a happier person, potentially as a result, healthier person, for a whole number of reasons, through physical relationships, through the way you eat, the exercise you take, all the other bits and pieces, plus your career will be on the right trajectory, or business will be. And we're talking about 6 months. I think that's fair. I think you and I in 6 months could do a hell of a lot for somebody. And more importantly, our style is very much about leaving you with the tools you need. So you won't need to keep coming back. You do often because you want to have a refresh, but that's not what we look to do, is it? So from our point of view, I feel this series has been a real showcase of what we're about and what the industry is about. Because I think it gets quite a bad rap, to be fair. And that is because there's a lot of challenging styles out there, and that's as tactful as I'm prepared to be. But I don't know, how do you feel? I feel like this is turning into one of my mild rants, and you normally bring me back from the edge, so I think it's probably time to switch over to Stephen again.
You raise so many points, and it's about, I think in this country in particular, we find it very, very difficult to talk about ourselves. And because we find it difficult to talk about ourselves, we sometimes find it difficult to reflect on ourselves. And because we don't do a lot of that, it's then hard to then go, well, what do I do to be the best version of myself? So I often say to people, I will help you be the best version of yourself. And to do that, you do have to talk about yourself. And I think that's why I think in this country, it's different to the US. I actually think, and shoot me down if you like, I think in the US, they're much more comfortable about talking about themselves. And because they do that, there's a lot of self-reflection, and there's a lot of, well, I want to be better. I'll go one step further. In this country, we when my children are little and we're growing up, we talk about taking part. We don't talk about winning. So it's almost like it's inside us not to do the best for ourselves, not to talk about ourselves, not to big ourselves up, not to be confident. And what I'm saying is actually when you break it all down and go, I want to develop, I want to be the best version of myself. To do that, I need help. To do that, I need support. To do that, I need someone that believes in me. And sometimes and I know it's difficult sometimes when people go, is it really that simple? And I often say, yes, it is that simple. When someone believes in you, when someone can get your mind to a point where you really, truly believe, what you can achieve just goes off the scales.
Yep.
And that's to do with someone else believing in you, someone else that you can talk to about how you're really feeling, someone else who's there to sort of guide you, that's been through these scenarios before, that's got a toolkit, that they can have a little rummage around in that kit and come out with the right spanner, the right screw, the right bolt to help you just move that little bit extra. Because in many cases, it's not about moving miles and miles and miles. Sometimes it's just little adjustments, it's little movements. I often say, I can't change a person. You are who you are. But in my belief, I believe you can get people to do things differently and change outcomes. And that's what we're all about, helping people to change their outcome, helping people to change the way they view themselves, helping people to change the way they see things, helping people to self-develop, helping people to believe, helping people to dream, helping people to why can't you reach the apple that's slightly higher than the apple that you had before? Who says you can't do that? Why aren't you good enough? Talk to people with, neurodiversity all day long. And they've been told all the time, you can't do that, you're not good enough. You can't do that because your brain works differently. No. Well, actually, I'm saying yes, 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 and yes. And the more you can have someone around you that can encourage you, that can give you the right momentum, to give you the right sort of thinking packages, to give you the right kind of, belief, then you can achieve things. I'm not saying, you take people and you lie to them and you make them something that they're not. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that actually, with the right guidance, with the right support, with the right help, with the right mindset, you can achieve anything. And no one is going to tell me anything different, because guess what? I'm sat here with you on the couch. And really, if I would have lived in the shoes that I should have lived in, what I was born into, then I shouldn't be here. So when I'm talking about real life experiences on why I'm here. And the reason I'm here now, sat on this couch with you, is because of my mindset. The reason why I'm here, sat on the couch with you, is because when I was nearly 16 years old, I was introduced to a guy called Jack Shah. He was my first ever mentor. And that was many, many moons ago. Not going to tell you just how many, but many, many moons ago. And I can confidently say, if Jack hadn't come into my life, when he came into my life, I would not be sat on this couch right now. And he was my first ever mentor. And what did Jack do? He made me believe in myself. What did Jack do? He made me believe that a black boy that grew up on the wrong side of the road in a tough city, that was, destined for either to be 6 foot under the ground or incarcerated, whatever. He said, you can be whatever you want to be, but it starts now. You have to invest in you.
Nice. Well, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. And you guys should check out some of the other episodes, because Stephen talks quite eloquently about his childhood and all those sorts of things. And yeah, I mean, a bit like with the last episode we did with Rory McIlroy, there's a living example of positive mindset sitting right next to me here, Stephen. One of the reasons I do the podcast with him is because it's such an impressive journey that you've been on. It's very inspiring. We're getting far too mushy for my liking, though. As he knows, I don't do the empathy stuff too well, so that's about as touchy-feely as I get, but it's impressive. It is impressive. And that's the point, isn't it? That one of the things that I'm absolutely militant about with all my clients, anyone who's been coached by me will say that I'm a right dickhead about this, but when they use the bad words, and you know what the bad words are, they aren't swear words. They can swear as much as they like. They're the negative words. They're the I can't. Bad word. Try. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you did it or didn't do it. You're just giving yourself excuse words as to why you didn't. And the thought sort of like, la 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 la, but yeah, crap. And then it's posh friend, however. All the stuff that goes before but and or however is bullshit, as we damn well know. And it's just another excuse. But it's letting ourselves believe that we did do something, that we are something, or that we're unable to do something. No. You just don't want to do the hard yards, or you are scared of it, or you don't like the fact that you feel fearful about it. Well, you need to embrace those feelings of fear, get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and you will achieve more. And that exact point you made earlier about the small stuff daily, that's the thing, that whole compound effect, if you want to call it. I like to refer to it as a slight edge because I'm obsessed with the book. But the principle is you start something now, tomorrow it will make no difference. The day after it probably won't make much difference. Even a week later it might not make much difference. But if you've kept doing that for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever that positive thing is, your life will get better. If you consider doing that for the same amounts of time negatively, your life will get worse. And that's what many of us do over a long sustained period of time. We tell ourselves we cannot do something. That whole slight edge curve, compound effect comes in negatively. And at some point it goes really steeply down. And that's when we move into worlds of anxiety and depression and all the other very negative things that we're seeing a huge amount about. And because of the plethora of negative media that we can jump onto, either directly affecting us, we believe, or indirectly, or making us feel low or worthless and so forth. There's just so much more of it in the last sort of 20 odd years that all I feel that does is it amplifies it. It makes it quicker, worse, more severe, deeper than it ever used to be. I mean, growing up, I was lucky we had none of that because I don't know what that would have done. If we had social media and people telling me I'm crap, and if I'm not this perfect person, that I'll be miserable for the rest of my life. I don't know how that would have ended up, to be honest. And I worry for young people that certainly grow up with that in very formative years. So it's really, for me, one of the triggers that I want you to listen out to is any time you tell yourself you can't do something, or you don't sound like you believe in yourself, or you think there's people out there that are better than you. Now, I'm not saying that at the time that you think it, that might not be true. So in a sporting context, you might be up against peers who are better than you, but I don't want to hear saying that you can't do it, that you cannot get better, that you could not be this person. And then I would ask you to ask yourself this other question: what are you willing to do, or what have you done? If you can't answer the stuff that you have done, then you've actually got an opportunity, because you have let yourself down up to this point. And I'm going to put that cold water out there right now and pour it all over you. You have failed yourself and let yourself down because you haven't done the stuff you need to do, but it's not too late. You can do it. You need, in my opinion, some tough love, some honest conversations, ideally with yourself, but you can certainly do it with somebody like us. We can certainly do that for you. It's what I thrive on. And we will help you transform yourself, because you need to cut the BS. Anything you tell yourself you can't do, you can. Fact. You can. And come here and argue with us. We'll argue till the cows come home, because there will be stuff you can do. I'm not telling you it's going to happen overnight, but you can do the things you tell me you can't do, and we will take that to the bank. So for me, I feel I have ranted twice, I think, on this one, passionately believing in it. So I think it's only fit that we let Stephen calmly finish the episode with his final piece. So over to you.
What I would say to anyone listening to this podcast today that believes that this can help them, or listening to the podcast today, they believe it can help someone else, send over the links that they can listen to it, because I guarantee you having a mentor or a coach in your life can make all the difference and turn I can't do to I can do. And I think that, that's the note really. So invest in you.
Love it. Excellent. Well, I hope, as always, you've enjoyed that episode. And as always, if we've triggered you in any way, or you want to talk to either of us, we're always up for a chat. You know how to get hold of us by now. So until the next episode, bye-bye.